All right, welcome to episode number 7 of the Hammer Factor Hot Seat. My name is John Grace, producer here at the show, and I'd like to welcome our very special guest, the Queen of the Molokai, SUP World Cup champion, and published artist, Sonni Hönscheid. Sonni, how are you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Welcome to the show. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Hönscheid. Yeah, you did pretty well.
Uh, Well, I'll bumble through some things through this interview, so just correct me if I mess anything up. Well, before we dig into this interview, can you share something with our audience that most people probably don't know about you?
Well, I think that probably a lot of people don't know that I'm an artist. That's like my second biggest passion besides stand-up paddling.
And I believe that you are a published artist. Some of your artwork has shown up on on some of the Starboard boards.
Yeah, that's been a great collaboration since 2 years now, and yeah, for me it's a great honor, and yeah, I still can't believe when I see my art on the boards, and especially because I can show my two passions in one product, and yeah, that makes me very proud and very happy to share it with all the sub community.
Oh, that is so rad. I have some questions that I want to dig a little deeper onto that, but before we get into it, before you had a board with your artwork on it, before you won these races, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from, and how did you develop a passion for paddleboarding?
Well, originally I was born in on Sylt, which is like a little island in the North Sea. It's on the border to Denmark. And my dad, he was a professional windsurfer, so we traveled the world like since I was a baby. And I almost was born on Maui because we always spent like half a year there for my dad to train. And my older sister, she went to school there. So yeah, and that's where I learned but basically I grew up on the beach. So my passion was like the water since I was a baby, and I really like to be in the water. And then I started bodyboarding, and when I was 5 years old, we moved to the Canary Islands.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, yeah, that's where I learned how to surf and to windsurf, and later on to paddle.
So originally you were a surfer, eh?
Yeah, originally I come from surfing and windsurfing, and yeah, so for me it was a natural transition to go on the stand-up board.
Right. And there's always been that kind of thing about, paddleboarders or sea sweepers and this kind of surf culture. Being that you were a professional surfer and professional paddleboarder, can you speak to that? Have you ever felt that?
Uh, well, I mean, for me, growing up in the Canaries, I mean, I'm in the water every day, and sometimes I'm just body surfing. Sometimes I started with bodyboarding at the beginning, and then I went into surfing and then into windsurfing. And so far as I know, like stand-up paddling pretty much came up again on Maui when the big wave surfers, they were searching for a sport they could do over the summertime to keep themselves fit for the wintertime. So originally it was created by surfers,
Right.
and big wave surfers, so pretty cool surfers, because they surf huge waves and. So I mean, for me, I never had like any. I could feel sometimes this like we could see like surfers really don't like stand-up paddlers and like that. But I think it's mostly because stand-up paddling it's quite an easy sport to learn, especially when it comes to surfing too. Because you're standing already, so to catch a wave, it's easier than when you surf.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't go to all this process like where you learn how to behave in the water, how to like learn about the rules. So you jump all this big learning curve you have when you surf. And I think that's the issue, like a lack of education.
Yeah,
So
I think that makes perfect sense. Along this journey, a lot of the athletes that we've talked to over the course of recording these shows, there was a certain person or a mentor that was in their life. Do you have that? Did you find your way organically into that? Did a mentor have any role in your passions?
I think generally my dad, like because he teach me a lot about like the water, and and how to, like, he always had he's a shaper as well, so he always shaped me my boards, and he teach me how to surf and how to windsurf, and teach me about the ocean, like about the dangers with the, where you can put yourself in when you go out there in the ocean. And I guess, I mean, that's one for me, like, one of the most important people in my life, because he gave me a huge gift, like he teach me
Yeah.
how to surf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And just how to be around the water safely. That is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I noticed reading on your bio that you were in the German national team. How does that work? Is that a is I know that a lot of clubs and the national team for paddling in a lot of European countries, they're funded by the government. You have the ability to train full time. Is that the same way it worked for you when you were on the German national team? Tell me, how did that work?
No, it's mostly it's people who are into kayaking and canoeing. Those people are supported by the state as well.
Okay.
But with stand-up paddling, because it's still quite a new sport, so it still runs if you're like in the national team and sent to world championships from the ISA, for example. It still runs over the German Surfing Federation. And to be honest, it's, yeah, I mean, they're not very familiar with stand-up paddling or paddling sports in general. So there's still quite like a big learning curve they have to go through to make it more professional for us stand-up paddlers.
Right.
So now we have the German surfing, like the kayaking federation. So they're getting in, but there's quite a lot of controversy, and something where I'm not very into, because I'm too busy with my life too, with my paddling and my art and all that. So
There's no time for that. Um,
it's life is too short for that.
One thing that I thought was really interesting reading through your bio is that you were part of, I believe, along with your parents, starting a surf shop. When did that happen? How did that all come about?
Well, that was when I was 18. Yeah, and like my parents and me, we decided to open up a surf shop in the Canaries, because basically we needed like a lot of things for us, like wetsuits and wax and leashes and pads and fins and all that. So so I just finished my studies, and we had this idea, and we had a good location for that. And my dad, being a shaper, he built the boards for the shop, so it was a good natural transition to open this shop.
That's so cool. Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still going. Yeah, actually, like the plan was like for the whole family to be more involved, but right now my parents are just running the shop. So yeah, I lucked out a little bit. Like I should be more involved, but right now I'm traveling so much and I'm so busy with my art that it's hard to be in the shop. But I'm trying. When I'm here, I'm trying to be there.
I want to get into a few other things, but I just recently noticed you're in the Canary Islands. You've been on the beach a lot. You just went to France and won this gla gla race. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, the glagla.
The
Yeah.
gla gla. And and there were like 600 people there. I saw there was snow on the peaks. Can describe that event. I had never even heard of it until I got to researching, this interview.
Well, the Glagla race, it was, for me, the first time I went there. For me, the first time I was paddling in temperatures like that. A few years ago, I paddled in Paris, and like in December, so it was really cold, but not snowing cold, like, like minus temperatures. So, I heard about it last year for the first time. I saw the pictures, and I thought this is the great race to opening up the season, and a great experience and a challenge too, because I just came back from Hawaii, and I went straight to France, and it was like definitely out of my comfort zone. And so it was really interesting, and paddling with so many people, and basically like we're just like a handful of elite paddlers, and the rest was recreational paddlers, and which was really cool, because they were so stoked that we were there, and they were so stoked to compare themselves to like
Right.
to our level. And there was people dressed up. There was people paddling on tandem boards. There was people, but everyone was smiling, and we had the greatest time out in the water. And later on, we got invited to a party where everyone brought like specialities from their part from France, and really like we got, yeah, I experienced a lot of culture and tried all different French food, and it was such a good event because it was racing on one side, but on the other side you had all this event around it. So it
That,
was definitely a great experience.
that's so cool. And so, is it a race? How does the race work? Is it from one end of the lake back around it? They said a lot of turns on buoys. What's the course like?
Well, we had a few buoys and yeah, 600 people on the starting line. That was definitely a challenge, and to not fall in, it was even a bigger challenge, which luckily I didn't fall, but I was very close to. And yeah, so basically we did like a course around the like in the lake. We did like a circle, and it was amazing because you saw like the mountains in the background with the snow, and it was, yeah, I mean, breathtaking, incredible landscape. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I checked it out. It was really cool. People were all wearing
Yeah,
wetsuits and all kinds of gear.
yeah, we were lucky because I basically I just brought a dry suit because I thought no matter what, I'm just gonna wear a dry suit. It's gonna be super cold. It's probably gonna be snowing, and then the day of the race it was sunny, so a dry suit it would have been almost too warm. So 5 minutes before the race, I bought like a long john, and that was perfect.
Nice.
Yeah,
So you had
yeah.
good weather. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was beautiful.
Well, you're a three-time queen of the Molokai, world champion. You just won the Gla Gla. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are going great right now. But let's kind of flip the switch here. What was the lowest moment that you've had through this journey?
Mm, in paddling.
Well, if it could be paddling, it could be something that pertains to life, but you know, everybody wasn't. It's hard to always be a champion. There are points when you don't exactly things don't go your way, you get injured. Are there any moments like that that stick out to you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but I really don't take things even when when you know you could win a race and you don't win it. You sometimes it's hard because it's what you're going through in life right in that moment, and
Hmm.
you just appreciate that you're able to still do it. So for me, it's well low thing in racing. I can't really say, oh, there was like for me a low, like like a low or like a bad experience for me, because in in racing I couldn't say that, because you win and you lose, and so but it's all an experience, and you still are able to do that. So for
Right.
me it's I mean, even last year when I became second in Molokai, I yeah, it wasn't like such an easy year for me, and because of personal reasons. And doing that race for me, it was like, yeah, that I was able to do it. I went out there, my head was completely in the race. I wasn't thinking about anything else, and I was so happy to be able to do it. So when I arrived, of course, I knew, I could, I know I could win this race, even not that day, but so that's sometimes when you could do better. But in general, I'm always really appreciate that I can actually do it, and I'm able to do it.
Nice. I love that perspective. What about your crowning achievement? Of all of these things you've done, what are you the most proud of? What jumps out at the top?
Um, well, I would probably say my third Molokai title. I could definitely like first one and the third one I could say, and the second one of course too. But yeah, I think the first time when I won Molokai, it was a pretty good feeling, because since I started paddling, I always wanted to do that race. When I started paddling here in the Canaries, I was pretty much the only one in the water paddling, And I was always looking at pictures and YouTube videos, and I saw all the Maui people like Andrea and Devin and all the Maui girls paddling like down this coast with this huge boards and then huge beautiful windy conditions. And I always had the dream to paddle, to be able to paddle with them, you know. That was my dream. And then the first time I came to Hawaii and I saw them out there, and I was like, wow, this looks amazing, you know, how they're so fast. And then compete against Adria, it was just, yeah, I mean, a dream came true, you know. And then arriving before her, it was like, wow, that's the top. So I was really happy with that, you know?
That is incredible. For our listeners who don't know, describe Molokai.
And one, it's painful, but but it's painful but beautiful, you know. It's so hard to really describe it. It's a race where it's not, of course it's a race against other people, but mostly it's a race against yourself. Like you leave that shore in Molokai, and you know there's no going back. You're gonna cross this channel, you're not gonna quit. And you're gonna reach Oahu by your own power and by your own strength. And this is an amazing feeling, you know, where you know you're paddling through this like deep channel and you feel like so small, and you have like all this water around you and flying fish and dolphins and sharks and everything, and you're just out there. And then when you reach Oahu, of course you went through a lot. You had your ups, your downs, you are sore, your hands are bleeding, and you got cramps and everything. But when you arrive on Oahu, like for me at least, half an hour later, I was like, oh yeah, I could do this again next year.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is certainly one of the events that's captivated me. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's a 35-mile open ocean crossing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's 32
30,
miles.
30,
Yeah.
30, 32 miles. All the pictures and video I've seen are just amazing paddlers just in the troughs of the waves, disappearing at the crest of the waves, coming back out, chop in between wind spray. I mean, it is something else. And to win
Yeah.
that thing 3 times is no joke. What's your secret sauce? How do you win it 3 times?
I don't know. It's for me, it's just interesting to see where you thought you have your limits, and then really go over those, you know, and to know there's so much more in you than you thought. And to win this race, I mean, obviously you train for it. You train a lot, and I have an incredible team on the boat, because every paddler who takes part needs a boat, an escort boat.
Right.
And I have a really good team. We became really good friends. It's 2 Hawaiians, and I don't know. We just see each other one time a year for Molokai, but they know me so well. You know, they sing songs with my name, and they keep me like in a good mood, and they always tell me what I train for. You know, so even when you feel down in the middle of the channel and you feel miserable because you're paddling against the current and you really don't move forward, and you could, yeah, and then your things go through your mind. You know, you think like, oh, why I'm doing this, and I could be in Waikiki like drinking a nice cocktail on the beach. You know, why I'm suffering and going through this. You know, and then they remind you and they tell you, Sonni, remember what you trained for. This is your race, you know, you can do, you know. And I think it's just a combination of many things, you know, and all these things went right for me in that day. And that's the key thing, you know, because everyone who comes to Molokai is a potential winner for this race. It's just, there's so many factors which are involved in this race. But if all goes good, yeah, you have a good chance to win. So I was lucky enough and won it 3 times.
I appreciate you being humble, but there may be a little more than luck going on there. Tell me a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, but it's luck. It's luck when you know, because there's always a thing what can happen. You can get cramps which are so bad that you can paddle more. You can break your fin, break your rut. It's all things would happen.
Right.
So you need a little bit of luck as well.
What how do you train? What when you're in season and you're trying, you're looking for a personal best or to win a race or get out there. What does your day look like? Your day and week look like?
Well, I'm not this. I don't have like a training plan. I don't have like a written down training plan. Okay, today I'm doing this. Tomorrow I'm doing that. The day after I'm doing this. I paddle mostly here in the Canaries, and we have in front of the house. I have all different conditions. Wind, so I can paddle upwind, downwind, side wind. Can paddle in waves. I can paddle in flat water. So for me the day pretty much depends like on the conditions. If it's flat, I do flat water. If yeah, and I do like sometimes I do intervals, sometimes I do long distance, but it's really how you feel as well, because sometimes when you have a written down training plan, you have, for example, oh, tomorrow I have to paddle 25 Ks, but maybe tomorrow you don't, your body just tells you to, that you don't feel like telling that. But then when you force yourself, for me, I always think that you have a higher risk of injuries or of getting sick, when you're a bit run down and you might get the flu or something. So I really listen to my body as well.
Hmm.
I do my plans listening through how I feel, and sometimes if you have a training plan and it says, oh, today you just do like half an hour intervals, but all of a sudden you feel like so fit that you might want to paddle around the little island we have in front here, which is like 20 Ks. So then I do that, So it's always depends a little bit on the conditions and on how I feel.
That is brilliant advice, and something that we've heard on this show from multiple athletes is listen to your body. When the time is right,
Absolutely.
go hard. So that is definitely a trend.
Yeah, because sometimes when like especially when you had a harder week, when you trained a lot maybe, or if the waves are good, you go surfing and then you might feel a bit run down, maybe you got a little cold, and then you already feel like maybe on the tipping point of getting a flu or something, and then you shouldn't force yourself like too much. You can even taking a day off sometimes. It's great. It's good for when you feel like you need it, then you need it, and then you can just not go in the water or go slow and just cruise and really look what's around you and enjoy that as well. And that's I'm a big fan of really listening to yourself.
No, I think, and especially over the long term, there's no way. I mean, that's in my opinion, to compete, train, and consistently get better over the long term, you have to listen to your body, or you're just going to end up sick and injured.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's one that we can never find a trend that I ask all the time on this show. What's your diet like?
My diet.
Yes.
Well, I pretty much I eat everything, and I don't eat much processed food, or like hardly no. Well, I don't eat processed food, and I try to eat and to keep it simple, and I don't eat much meat, but sometimes I feel I need it, and I like to eat fish, but just sometimes as well, and just rice, greens, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm very uncomplicated with food, to be honest. Because when you travel a lot and you're very picky with your food, it's very difficult when you travel, or it can get very difficult when you travel. So yeah, I'm very easy when it comes to food. Just not much or no processed food, and not much meat.
What about when you're actually in a race, like a Molokai or something?
Well, before Molokai, I ate a lot of pasta. Yeah, probably like 2 days already before I start eating a lot of pasta. Yeah.
And then what about in the actual race?
In the actual race, I take a few bananas and like on the boat, and sometimes they throw me a banana, and I drink. I have like a drink with electrolytes and carbohydrates, and I take one Coke for the end just in case I get really low on the sugar, so you can get a little sugar high with caffeine. But besides that, I'm not eating that much.
Right, just mild nutrition, just enough to
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
keep the motor running. What about
Yeah.
in your career when you were competing? Were there any breakthrough moments or any aha moments that you can think of?
Well, aha moments probably every day when I go to water. You're like, okay, that's better like this.
That's why I do it.
you constant, yeah, you're constantly learning. Like every day when I go in the water, there's never when I go from the water things. Well, you always improve when you go in the water, and you always realize little things. So and breakthrough. Yeah, I would say like in the technique, I don't have a trainer, but I have a lot of friends who come from different paddling sports, and where I get different advice. And then when I put all the pieces together, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is how it works, and that made a lot of sense for me. And yeah, I would say I got better from my technique, and what helped me to increase my performance.
What specifically with your technique did did you improve on, and and you could really feel a drastic improvement?
Before I used a lot of just the body weight, and I just used my arms and my upper body. And then I realized I have to use my legs way more and my core. And then that's when it started improving, because then I was able to get more power from my whole body and not just through my arms and my like upper body.
What if a young paddler came up to you and said, "Hey, Sonny, what can I do to be a better paddler?" What jumps to your head? What advice would you offer that person?
I would say just go in the water every day and don't be picky with the conditions. Because I get to see a lot of paddlers, they always like, oh, they had today, it's not doesn't look too good. But for paddling, you have no excuse, unless it's like gale storm, like force winds, where you can't really, it's dangerous. Then of course not. But otherwise, you can go in the water every day.
I love that.
And yeah, so not be picky with the conditions. If it's windy, yeah, it's windy. So what? Paddle against the wind, do a little downwinder back, paddle up against the wind again. It's hard, but you will improve.
Yeah. Almost every athlete that we've talked to, kind of their underlying advice is just get out there and just get rad every day. Go do your thing every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people, they also think, oh no, today I'm gonna skip, going in the water because it's too windy. I'm just gonna go in the gym. And of course, yeah, it helps you. The gym, it helps you too. But in the same time, you can have your gym out in the ocean. Like you
Mm,
can paddle against the wind, use all your muscles you need for paddling, because you're paddling really hard against the wind, and you get a little down on your back as a reward. So, and you're out in the ocean, so every day counts.
oh yeah. What if they wanted to turn it into a career? How can you speak to how to get sponsorship and how to turn your passion into a career?
Well, I think nowadays it's on one side it's easier, on the other side it's more difficult, because through social media you can really represent yourself really well. So I think if you are a combination about, if you're just a hardcore racer, I'm not sure if nowadays you're really interesting for a company. So I think you have to bring a certain lifestyle as well. But I think it's a natural thing which comes as well. If you like a person who likes to spend time in the water, and I think it's when you have a love for the ocean, I think you develop this lifestyle anyway. What brands are looking for. And so I think it's a combination about winning races and bringing a good lifestyle with you. So yeah, if you could do those two, I think you're on a really good path.
Right. Right. what about how did you end up? Let's go back to yourself. I noticed on your website you say you're an artist before you say that you're a paddleboarder. Tell me about your art, and then how did you end up with your work on on the boards?
Well, so I had my first art exhibition in 2013, and yeah, well, before that, before I started, well, it's I always liked to paint, like as a child, because I mean, I guess every kid likes to paint. And then as soon as I started traveling, I was doing a lot of collages about pictures I took and things I collected on the beach. So, and then, yeah, like I slowly developed my style. And then 2013, I had my first art exhibition. It was successful. And then I had my second one 2 years later. I showed some boards with my art on, some surfboards. And then Swain, the founder of Starboard, he contacted me for design for some kiteboards before. That was 6 years ago. And then, yeah, so we worked together before. And then, yeah, and then I came into the Starboard team, and Swain came up with this idea. And for me, it was a dream coming true, like showing my art on stand-up boards. And yeah, it was like felt like a natural transition to the whole thing.
Were you always an artist, like as a young child, or is that something you developed at a certain point?
Well, it's hard to tell. Like in one of my art exhibitions, art collector came in, and he was like, "Oh, how much time you take to make a painting?" And I was like, "Oh, particularly this one, I took maybe 18 hours." And he was like, "This is the wrong answer. You have to say you took a whole lifetime." So I guess that's what he meant. Like you you just don't sit down and make this painting like in 18 hours. You're coming a long way to make this painting. So it made a lot of sense, and I was thinking about it, and it's actually true. Like it's all a lifetime. What you put in this painting, it's all what you became in the moment where you sit down and you were started to paint this painting. It's more than just 18 hours. It's like your whole life.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of gave me cold chills when you said that. Well, I think the art you can ride boards from Starboard are hot. I think that's so awesome, and just I want to give you congratulations on that one. That is very cool.
Thank you very much.
I mean, it's kind of like in skateboarding, to get your own deck and to design the artwork on your own deck, that's a huge accomplishment for, I mean, that is just big hats off to you for Sonny making that happen. And cool for Starboard to take that chance.
Yeah, and I also like I'm very happy because it's Starboard, they're very going into a direction, or they have been since a long time, where they're really taking care of the environment as well. And for me, my biggest inspiration is the ocean. So it's nice when you're working for with a company which have the same vision as you have, and that's what's important for me, because it's we all working together make the ocean to get the ocean in cleaner,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's nice to collaborate with people who have the same vision with you, like you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it makes it even more special.
Speaking about Starboard and the industry itself, it seems, the SUP market has just been on this meteoric rise. It has just been more and more people, and on some levels it's sort of flattened out a little bit, but I mean, there were 600 people at this Glagla race. We have the Carolina Cup just down the road here in North Carolina with I don't know how many people, more and more people each year. Where do you see how do you see this sport in 10 years? From the inside, what are your thoughts on it?
It's hard to tell. but I mean, obviously, it's not because it's stand-up paddling. It's a sport for everyone. It's a sport for men, for women, for kids, for it's like a family sport. It's you can do it everywhere where there's a little bit of water. So it's a difference to like windsurfing or surfing, or kite surfing, for example. So it's hard to tell where it's going. But I mean, yeah, coming from the Glagla race and seeing so many people so stoked about paddling, and I talked to a lot of paddlers as well, and you can just see they're just happy and passionate about the sport and about training as well. I went out with a few people and tried to give them a few little tips here and there. And they said, I go home and I train and I look at videos, and it's a motivation they have to train to later on take part in a race like that. And I don't think that's getting less. I think it's even getting more and more people involved, because like when they speak to their friends and they might try it, so they like it, and then they might train as well to do like a little race, and they see that's like all the friends catch up there. So I see a big future in races like like Lagla and Carolina Cup, where it's a race everyone can take part in.
Right.
So I think that's what we should keep definitely getting more races where there's a chance for normal people to take part in. That's important as well.
Right. No, I share that opinion that I see so much passion around these races, and there is just a lot of people wanting to up their game, and I think that even if you don't win the race, having your personal best, things like that are just really driving a lot of people to just get out on the water more. So
yeah, absolutely. Like you see guys, for example, they just want to beat their friend, and
yep.
that's like a competition. Like on every race, they're like, oh, this time my friend beat me, but next time I'm gonna beat him again, and yeah, and that's cool, it's really cool. So yeah, I see that too.
Off script here for a second, and this just popped my mind right before we got on this call to record this. I was reading an article, I believe it was on the REI blog. I'm not exactly where I saw it, but it was specifically about fastest known times, and this article spoke to trail running. Have you ever thought about, are there any SUP fastest known times, sort of times being set or goals that are other than just your standard races, like the fastest time at Molokai? Are there anything in this sport, or have you ever had any interest in anything like that?
Well, I don't know if 11 City, for example, counts. That's my next goal, big goal, probably.
What is that?
That's like I think it's 4 days. It's 230 some. I think it's 230 kilometers or something like that. So yeah, it's a race in Holland, and it goes through all the little channels around. So yeah, that's one of the races they have been out there for a long time, and every year I tell myself, like 1 year, like I have to do it, and this year it's probably gonna be the year where I'm gonna do it.
So is this a 230 kilometers? It's broken into 4 stages? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's 4 days, and so every day you pedal like around 50 something.
Oh wow! And so you're on the water? So you're doing 5-hour days for 4 days in a row, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, where can we find more information on
Yeah.
that? When does that happen?
That's gonna happen in September. That's I think they even have a website or a Facebook site.
And what's the race called one more time?
Sub 11 City.
Sub 11 City. And you're doing it this year. Okay, everybody in the Hammer Factor Nation just heard that from Sonni. She is signing up, and this is the year.
Yeah, I guess so. There's no going back now.
Well, we're sort of approaching the end of our interview here. Where can our audience follow you? Are you an Instagrammer, a Facebooker, a blogger? Where can they follow and learn more about you?
Well, if they see me on the beach, they can come and talk to me, of course. Like I'm really happy to talk to everyone because sometimes I notice that people are shy, and they're like, oh, like, and I'm always happy when people come to me and they better say hi to me like in person than sometimes when they're too shy and they write you on Facebook, oh, I've seen you on the beach and I would just wanted to let you know that, one day I would like to paddle with you or something. So instead of that, I'm more appreciate when people come to me on the beach and actually tell me, you know what, like, why don't we go paddling one day? And I would be more open to that.
Right.
So I really like that. And then, yeah, I'm on Instagram.
Okay. All right. Well, find Sonni on Instagram. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the Hammer Factor today. And yeah, I'd like to get you back on the show after this race in Holland and see how it goes.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Good luck through the year, and there you go, Sonni Hönscheid. Thank you so much for the time.